of the interesting questions is this 20 points for attacking Byzantine Rome. What it constitutes attacking? Combat? Would sieges count? I don't know. I justify either, but the reason that's important is in the second turn of my last game, I went and basically occupied the Oriental region. And there's reasons for that. On turn 3, you get tons of points for Egypt, Phoenicia, Syria. Basically capturing Palestine and Egypt is hugely valuable to them. I don't want to move too hard in that direction though this turn, because if my capital falls, I'm in trouble on this first turn only. It forces a peace and all kind of other yucky stuff. Therefore, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a big stack to attack these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's better than my stack. That's the problem, and I don't have the good units that I want, but I want to get that 20 points. So I'm going to launch an attack there, and I'm going to launch, it's got to be against the Romans. So I'm not going to go picking on the Armenians or Roman allies, which I did last time. Instead, I'm going to focus on, maybe once I pin this, making some moves in the Oriental area, etc. So this is the move forward. I'm laying 2 sieges. I've got a bunch of reserve units that are kind of crappy here. I'm making the main attack against the Caesar here. So we're only going to see 1 attack. The Romans could have intercepted here. However, it's 1 unit against 4. That's a way to get a unit killed. I would rather not set up in that way. Remember, you can only overrun when you have 6 to 1, which means you have not only 4 units, but not only maximum stacking, but maximum stacking with a +2 leader. So overruns are really, really unlikely. Anyway, I'm going to fight this battle. I am not going to do it out in too much detail. I just know that the last video would have gone too long had I fought everything out. But what we've got here is the Caesar unit with some pretty good stuff. He has a limites to back him up, and he was stacked here so it's not destroyed. Let me make the check on that limite. It hurts something. It does not. So I'll collect up the losses there. And all the points are going to be, let's do the sieges too while we're at it. And just make this the last thing that I do. So siege values are a little better. Oh, jeez. I don't know what I'm sitting on here. Okay, but remember, you don't get to keep that. However, again, that's for my turn. What's the Persians? Persians don't get to do anything. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not fucking something up that I'm going to regret horribly. Okay, so we paged through all this stupid advanced battle that has no reason to exist, as far as I'm concerned. Civilized besiegers +1. They're not in decline. Goes to -1 for fortified wall. I don't have a leader. It's going to force me out if I don't succeed, but I can't really afford to waste units. So I need an 8 or higher. I do not get it. And I'll fall back to there. And then similarly here, really the same effect. This one I get, and that means I can loot it. I can dismantle its walls. I don't want to do that because now I have control over it. Do I want to loot it? Why not? So that's 2. I'm getting close to my total money. Yeah, I might get an event I can use. So I get 2 jets. Okay. I'm up to total money, but I got chit 55. Let's put a looted marker here. I do want to keep it under control. But chit 55 is somewhere. Somewhere I got a bright book. On the page I was looking at. A saint. So, yeah, I can fail a siege if I have that. Good luck remembering these, that I have these. The cards I have enough trouble with. All right, and now for the battle itself. A lot of elites on the Romans, that's the problem. Okay, I'll come back with what I've got, but we got a lot of horses over here. This is in the steep, which isn't going to matter because I'm not nomads, but so both sides took some archery losses. For the Romans, they took it on their archer. For the Persians, they took it on their elite unit. And now after that, this is what the dice are going to be. And you can see the Romans have better dice. The Persians had some nice dice because of the horse archers. Those are nice for the archery thing. But the Persians get an extra reroll, so we'll see what that ends up as. And this is from before. We've got 3 dead units on both sides at the end of it. The Romans did more damage total, but the victory determination, the Romans get to hold because of their fortified city. And then in the post-recovery, that's an elite unit. I think I want these horse archers back rather than the elite, and I recover an elite. And I want my Romans back rather than the other, and I recover an elite. So not a lot actually killed, but that's the way this system works. Okay, so I had to fall back quite far because I reinforced in depth. Now I've got 2 more attacks possible. Now I think I can wear this guy down, but it's an expensive process. On the other hand, if I don't wipe him out, there's just too much available. They might be able to cut their way through to Chaldea and knock me out for a while for the next turn. Time because I have space. A Roman interception was attempted, it failed. And I'm marking a die in there because I got all confused as to where I came from. Should have been obvious. And we'll go through that again. The round again went well for the Persians, and their dice pool is looking a little bit better, but I have less black dice than the Romans do. But the trade-offs, we might end up okay. And holy shit, that's bloody. So the Romans are doing 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, great. Okay, there's 2. Kind of want to keep this 3, 4, 5, 6 out there. And I think we wiped them out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 2, 4, 5. Okay, so somebody was wiped out and somebody was not, which makes an automatic victory for the Persians. It doesn't have to make the count. However, we still have recovery, so there will still be a Roman army coming back. But we were completely eliminated, so the leader on odd goes away for the turn. He does not. He'll get to retreat. And yeah. Okay, so the Romans fell back. I did not get a successful attack, siege on the city. However, because I'm in leader campaigns, this is just so weird, but because I'm in leader campaigns, I can maintain this siege. I could leave the leader there and keep it up, which is no big deal. If I fell back, I could go back in, right? Except that there's no interception chance on me just staying. So that's one option. Another option is I could gather forces for my leader which I could do either way, and leave someone here and push into something like Oserhone, figuring that the Romans probably don't want any more pain. I'm collecting up a lot of points on them, and then I could take 2 adjacent cities, which I think is what I'm going to do. I don't think I can ever have this guy stacked as heavily as he will be, but here's the thing. I can draw somebody to him, then move, leaving somebody behind, then draw somebody to each unit's individual, etc. So, yeah, I can have a full stack for whatever the Romans throw at me. So the thing that bothers me here is similar to the thing that bothers me about pausing units in mid-move and such not, which is that the board sometimes is in a state that's not really consistent. You know, like it's in a state that it can't stay in. In this case, I have to remember that this is besieging this city and doesn't own it, because it doesn't look that different from an owned city, right? One that I didn't loot. Likewise, this was a saint, if I recall correctly. Likewise, if I pause units in mid-move, those units haven't used up their movement point allowance, so I can't just mark them by tilting them or something like that as moved, or remember I moved them. I've got to remember how many movement points they have left. So there's this idea that like the brain can hold this infinite stack of information in it, and that is not a reasonable thing to assume, and that's why most games don't have that kind of crap going on them. There's also the argument that it allows way too much coordination and timing advantages, and if anything, even the normal you move one unit, then you move another unit is probably too effectively coordinatable in most designs, but that's a different issue. Do the Romans want to intercept? If they do, they can bring this unit in too. Their client can't join because it's not actually, it's just a client. It's not actually involved in this. I am not going to try to intercept. It was just rolling a die to make that decision. I figure on like a 1 I would go berserk there. So what I've got is 2 sieges. Let's do the one that's easy, the one that I only get 1 die roll on. And let's find the siege table again if I can. I'm on it. That's a success. At maximum money, I'm not going to loot it. There's some calamities in that cup too, so just going for the events doesn't seem wise. And we'll try this one as well. That is also an 8. And I get that as well. So I have successfully taken everything that I aimed for. I used both my actions up, and now there's one more thing left, which is that I get an extra 20 victory points for launching this massive attack on the Romans. And I certainly used at least 10 units, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 11 right now, plus whatever I lost, so I'm pretty certain that I got 10 or more. We're going to be on the Romans, but I'm going to take a little break. My nose is bugging me. The smoke and everything is still persisting. Right now, it still looks like it's smoky out, but it's nowhere near as bad a tasting air. There's a lot of fog mixed in with it. But the air quality measures for the town are still, you know, over 450. Just ridiculously high. It's not safe to be outside. It's not safe to be inside without an air purifier, and I don't have one, or an air conditioner or something, but whatever. It's not safe to smoke either, you know, or to have COVID. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that 20-point thing. Something like a 20-point victory point bonus is just the game saying, you must do this. But it's a little kinder than a pure scripting that they must do it. If you forget it, hey, you fucked up, you lose. You know. But 20 points is a huge, huge chunk of points. Let's take a look at what people have made this turn. The Romans, which are the big point getters for pink, I think, are at 20 points total right now. Green has made 7 over the thing. The Ostrogoths made their 20 points. How the hell did they get them? Well, they went batshit over here. And that's the thing. They've got the choice to take 20 points, but now they're facing the Huns. And that is a real choice. Like, not by taking those 20 points, I may be in severe problem for getting the Ostrogoths down as a real kingdom in Italy. And that's an issue to think about. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to pause. It took me a little while to realize what these are, because I'm used to this. These are not similar to the things from Hispania, which are really a bunch of little clips per country. These remind me more of Le Grand Guerre's booklets on each nation. And in terms of the depth and all the different stuff you got to balance. Now, in Le Grand Guerre, you can flip through those each turn. The turns are quite long, I guess. I mean, it's really just, I think, the nature of the type of game that I'm looking at just doesn't feel like it deserves this much words on each country in the game. You know, I'm playing a buckets of dice, area control, Britannia style game, and it just feels so wrong to have it this bloated. Okay, anyway. We're on the Western Romans. And here's where things start getting really complicated, because this is a point where the Romans have to... They have two of these little booklets. They have to take into account, and to some extent, you know, the Persians and Byzantines have related materials in their books. But they have to take into account both their own and the Byzantine situation, because I'm allowed to transfer Julian over there for a campaign, and I want to do that. And I wanted to see if I can knock the Persians out with a cut across to there. And we'll see whether I can manage that. I did not try it last time. Not worried about that yet. Oh, it's really important that you don't have an administrative card, because it would suck to have Julian's campaign screwed. I don't actually think that there is anything in this, in the Italy side, which talks to this. Threats to Italia. You can federate them in Italy. Interesting. But only if they're Arian or Christian. I didn't know this one. That looked far in advance, so I gotta look for the Britain, or the Byzantine. Yeah. I saw Britons, and they're on my mind. For the Julian, I'm not seeing it here either. Shit. Here it is. Let's put it at towards the back. The beginning of the Roman military phase, Julianus and units anywhere can be redeployed. Yeah, so I want to do that rather than have him move. Now, he can't take his guards with him. So he actually gets more than the campaign. I can take the Italian Legion. I can take this. I can't take the Palatine Guards. So I am going to shove him, I guess, down here into Cilicia. And he'll be used during the Oriental campaign. I don't see anything else. Let's get rid of that. Unfortunately, this is something the Romans should be being warned about, because they're the ones who might use him first. Right? I could declare an enemy, but I want to do this against the Persians and try to get more victory points for the Byzantines. And again, a card like that could be worth because it's in Roman hands, that could be worth 20 points in and of itself, that card. I mean, there's just such randomness here in addition to such big victory point things. So, you know, like if the Huns fail, you know, basically a die roll, you know. Okay. Which means I don't have a lot to play with here, and I got to decide what I'm doing. These guys are no longer feudus, and I've lost the territories to them. That was not a clever plan. Let me come back after I figure out what the fuck I'm gonna do with these Romans. I'm kind of cheating and moving some units while I'm doing stuff, and I've shifted the Palatine Guard up to here. These guys are going to attack here, but there's going to be an interception chance there. But I am making an attack here. But then I remembered I have this mercenary, so I'm paying $3 to the Visigoths. Now, this is kind of interesting because this contains information that's not on the card, but the card contains information that's not in here, which is that the barbarian selects the unit to give you. I'm going to put that in here so that I have some additional forces for that attack. This poor schmuck can't do much. I don't think he can be intercepted, but he'll be able to activate some of these forces for his extra bonus activation and maybe do something. End up too well. Only the weak unit joined. The leader did not succeed in reaching. So and I rolled the leader first, but I gotta declare them both ahead of time. Half remember there maybe being a rule that I don't have to actually roll dice to hit that horde. However, going and finding that rule, if it exists, and it may be in the errata and I didn't mark it, but I suspect it's not. It would take me about a half hour. Rolling some dice will not. So if I don't hit it, then I'll check. So I peeked, but I couldn't find it. I did hit the Alemanni, and I get to take some of their money. Okay. And submitted them, and now I'm in range of him. Do I want to submit? So submitting the Franks causes them to be halved in value, but it gives me some advantages. So I am going to see if I can do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a river crossing. I can move them 1, 2, 3, 4, same thing. But it gets me up there to launch an attack, and then I have to give these back to the Visigoths. And otherwise I'm done with the Western Romans. So I've successfully submitted I don't know if I can retreat into there. I think I can withdraw into there. Who owns it right now? That's the question. It was taken by someone because it's pillaged, but it's not currently occupied, and I think I own the area it's in, Gallia. Still, maybe not. No, I seem to have lost Gallia because this was burned, and I don't know about that. But what does that make this? I think it makes it neutral. I don't know. I'm going to fall back to it and say I probably can. I have no idea. I got to make a check, though, for the Caesar. He might be dead. I don't think it matters. Nobody's going, but it allows me to redeploy him. Nah, he lives. And so I think that's the end of the Roman stuff, except I have to give those Visigoths back, which is not how I played it before. And this card goes over there. And yeah, we did not do a whole hell of a lot with them. By expending the Emperor over here, we weakened things. Do I have 2 Emperors there? I don't know what happened to my other Emperor. Did I kill him? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe Julianus is the only emperor. I thought there were two, though. I thought there was an Eastern emperor. Shit. Okay, Romans are listed as having Julianus there. The East, I thought I had a leader. Media has the Caesar, that's all. Yeah, okay, so there's just one shared emperor. And by shifting him over, now I have the capability to launch the big attack. I get rid of this. I am going to want to play this. And I put a die here, and it's time for another rest. Okay, so Julian has made a move into here. I'm moving all the Eastern Empire forces into range. In some cases, they're close enough that they can kind of get engaged in things. So if I do Caesar's special activations first, I can bring these up into range as well. So I got a lot of forces, but I did get intercepted here. We'll take care of the battle. So I've got the battle set up, and I'm starting to look. The Persians get an archery, the Romans don't, but I think the Persians are going to be able to get rid of that, or the Romans are going to get rid of that because there's the heavy advantage, isn't there? Yeah, so there's not going to be an archery round of any impact. However, I looked at the eye for an eye card, which I played at the beginning of this round, of course. I actually did. Target nation gains 1 victory point per unit of this enemy's nation eliminated during an activation, excluding leaders, fortifications, and limes. Okay, so this opens up a whole bunch of interesting questions. So I have not been counting fortifications as units that generate a victory point, and I haven't been counting leaders either. Either of which seem kind of strange. Pretty damn sure the game doesn't define terms like unit. Although, who knows? It might. Military units. There are two types, standard and elite. There's no discussion of leaders or forts. Standard units are listed here. They include limites, but not leaders or forts. So it's kind of strange that those would be accepted. Of course, remember, this game is not polished at all. You can expect stuff like that around the edges, like the fact that I have to use bonus counters after not even one turn. That's not particularly complex. I've got too many of these ambutes or whatever, the vassals, and they also don't indicate who owns them. So it would be advantageous of me to have these linked to the color of the unit, which I might be able to dig up pieces to do that with. But right now, I'm kind of still remembering things. But the other side of it is, somewhere I remember them talking about limites specifically do generate victory points. And again, they're listed as units here. So I'm just going to ignore the fact that it's talking about leaders and fortifications. But it is interesting that it doesn't count limites, because they do generate victory points otherwise. Why that? Anyway, on to the combat. I'll calculate the dice. It's a close dice race. The Persians have a few more dice, but the Romans have some extra black dice. Mainly their elite advantage came into play. What about the heavy advantage? I didn't put that into play, did I? That does not hurt them. That would reduce a black die. They don't have any. They weren't able to get any anyway. So there's that. And then the leadership bonus. Julianus is, of course, a little bit better with 3, but he's making the attack, so he has to choose his first. At least that's the way I make it up. This counter, if I recall correctly, is a saint. I can use that on a siege thing. I might want to hold that for this siege. Just, as... It depends on how deep we get into the leader activations, but I might want to hold that as a bailout for that siege, which is the hardest one that they're going to have to do. The losses, the Romans generate 6 victory points off this crap, and 1 coming back, and then we do recovery. The Romans actually obviously won the battle. Recovery, what do we want to recover? Not satraps. So 2 units recovered, and then we recover... elites. And they're not in decline, so there's no chance of the destruction. And I got to figure out the retreat and the siege. That's kind of crappy. The siege failed. This is not a leader turn, so I don't think I get that special ability. So now I have to fall back without gaining this space. And let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can't move the whole stack there. Come to one of the weird things. I wish they had figured out a way to integrate the two Roman empires better. The way it's worded, Julian just won a battle. Yet, he does not die. He's not assassinated from it. But honestly, Rome is one thing, and it was in decline in the West. And because he moved over here, he's not getting assassinated. This is the same person. Somehow I feel like, he should be making an assassin check. He shouldn't be an automatic, 3 campaigns additional in the East, 4 total, because he's able to shift there before the turn and everything. But the fact that he's moved to the East means he doesn't get a chance to be killed. And historically, he died before, he could pummel the Persians completely. He was a very good general. And I don't know if he was assassinated or if he died in battle, but neither of those results, actually I think he died of illness, to tell you the truth, but neither of those results are really possible. So now you have this godlike leader who is probably going to beat the Persians, unless some event or something steps in his way. I'm not sure how much I like that, yes, you're going to have some randomness in the game and all that. But on the very first turn, to have something that is so random and make this judgment that he is such a great general because he won some early battles against the Persians and then was not able to complete the act, as far as I know. I don't think he got the full surrender before he died. I may be mistaken. I wouldn't put it past myself. But anyway. Now comes the tricky thing. I kind of want to activate Caesar next, even though he's less advantageous and might end up losing a battle. Oh no, I've got this guy close by. Well, the problem with Caesar is he could barely make it here. And doesn't give me the number of rerolls I want or anything like that. That is kind of a pain. And I can actually shift these forces to here and shift other forces up into there. So I think I'm still going to activate Caesar first because that gives me the most oomph at the end, making my way through to try to take Chaldea away from the Persians and neutralize them next turn. It's a big fucking deal because every goddamn turn in the game, they can get 20 victory points for attacking the Byzantines or Romans with at least 10 units. And you're just going to score tremendous points every turn. You can see nobody else is scoring 20 points a turn, I think. Now, Rome and the Byzantines, between them, are generating more than that, aren't they? I'm at 27 here. The Persians are at 30. And the Romans are probably going to generate more with that eye for an eye. But it looks to me like Persia's just going to rock up points. And now, remember, another player has the possibility to basically generate no points, or very few, off their Huns, because they might just disappear. Really horrible set of interception dice. The king managed to make it there. But there are a ton of other units that are in interception range. None of them managed to make it. So Caesar now has a slightly larger force. We'll start the battle. And heavies, again, prevent an archery round from happening. I got no archers. And then here's the dice pools. Again, fairly even. The advantage going to Sapor in terms of the number of rerolls by 1. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, this was something I wanted to touch on. It's so easy to forget things, and that's part of the problem with the game. It's so easy to forget things. I forget things that I'm going to say, but I'm really, really terrified that I'm going to forget or have missed some tiny little rule, a line somewhere, that's something that can have a huge impact. So, for example, that if the capital falls, it's going to go into decline. I don't know of anything like that, but it wouldn't seem unreasonable. So, in this case, I'll probably, if I can remember and the capital does fall, I'll try to look something like that up and see if that happens. Because putting Persia in decline would make a major difference to their capability to be generating 20 points per turn. Although I'm not sure that kingdoms in decline dissolve. I'm not sure there's a way to kill kingdoms. Right. But, if I can trim their population down below 10 units, they won't be getting that 20 a turn. But otherwise, they're just going to run away with this game, Outcome was kind of a crap out. And then forces returned. The Romans lost the battle. This returns damaged, and now I can only recover one Roman legion to elite status again. So, the Romans are starting to take some hits here. Caesar has to retreat, and he did not succeed, which means now it's up to Julian, to make it through. Okay, so this is Julian's first campaign, and he's swinging through the desert where there's no interceptions allowed because it's not friendly territory to the Persians, and the Persians have slung over and made an interception at Babylon. None of the backline units were able to make it. Some of those were getting kind of iffy, so the dice were not as unlucky as last time. And we'll set that battle up. And there was no archery phase of any import, no dice. The die pools, Julian has a slightly better die pool, I think, here. He's got as many dice, but with a couple of black dice, plus he has the extra reroll. So this should be a pretty easy one for him. Not to be. The dice didn't come out that well. And remember, with rerolls and whatnot. Ends up as a tie in the actual casualties. As the attacker, I gotta run back. Unfortunately, my wife came up while I was trying to hold 8 pieces of information in my head before the retreat. And I started doing the retreat and positioned this here, but I'm not sure I got it right. So I go look at the retreat rules to make sure. And there is a really interesting thing here. The destination provinces must be friendly. Okay, those are not, or else empty and rural. Well, damned if I know what rural means. It may mean it has to be clear and nothing else would work. It may mean it has to be civilized. It may mean something I'm not thinking of here. I don't think I'm allowed to retreat to there. But the term rural does not exist in this game, as far as I know, other than right there. So let's look in the fucking glossary. Is there any term rural? No, of course not. I'm going to search the errata and see if I missed something. But yeah, this is how this game works. Oh look, there's a term. I don't know what the fuck it's meant to mean. But I don't think I can go where I'm going. God damn it. So that one's not in the errata, but I am pretty damn sure they do not mean that you can retreat to an empty desert space. So I think we'll be fleeing back probably as far as here, it looks like. Which, of course, yeah, so here's the thing. I kind of have to attack here because I have to be next to this. I could bypass Amida and make it into Assyria or here. What I can't do, and I could actually pin this down with additional forces. What I cannot do, and if I do the movement right, I might be able to bring those units in because they're within range. If I do an attack across here, that doesn't put me next to this. And why do I have to be next to it? Because I can be intercepted as I approach if I can't get next to it. Now, of course, if I was allowed to stay here, I could just slip around the back door and take 2 more cracks at the capital. I don't think I'm gonna. I know that. I'm pretty sure that that rural does not include barbarian desert territories. What it does include, I don't know. I think it's going to be clear. Although, honestly, friendly steppe makes sense. But, in terms of like, what is likely to keep the army fed and everything, and the supply lines, well, I don't think you can convince me that Scythia is a place where a big army should be allowed to park. So I'm really left with if it is not a clear area, you can't retreat to it unless it's friendly. This is the kind of result Julian was looking for. Again, no archery round because they had the heavy advantage. I kind of screwed up with what I brought in for the Persians. I should have brought in an elite. I would have gotten a black die. My black die was taken away for the heavy advantage anyway. I didn't meet that. It's hard to remember to do the calculation. It's like there's so much on your mind in this game that it's so likely that you're going to miss an optimization issue. But wow, did I wipe them out. Killed their leader. Got myself 12 points in victory points. Of course, they get to recover, which will be 2 units and an elite. And we will fall back to Chaldea. But the Romans also get to recover. And then I don't know which one of my legions. Take an elite cav, because the cav advantage is probably where I'm most likely to be behind. And I get a siege result. These are all dead. Now the leader flips over, and you can see I got another leader who's due on turn 7 to replace this one. I don't know what to do with these satraps leader. I don't know how he comes into play. He probably is supposed to be on the board all the time, but he's not listed in the setup. So he will never be on the board. He's not that big an advantage, I think. I don't know. But, I mean, he'd give extra operations. I could do some shit up here that would be painful. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We got 3 rerolls on the siege table. The siege table is actually on the board, so that's kind of cool. As are the interception, so I don't have to flip away from the combat table ever, except for the sequence of play, which is in a different place. Civilized Besieger +1. I don't think I want to do an assault. Puts me to -1. Okay. So I need the big 8. I'm not sure that's the same as the roll book. God damn. Yeah, so this is 7+. This is greater than or equal to 7, which seem to express different things. I'll stick with the roll book one. I don't know which one's supposed to be correct. I don't think there's a correction in the errata. I think it's just, I think they mean greater than or equal to by saying 7 or plus, but that's not normal. That's not a normal notation to use for that. So I need an 8. 1, and now I get 3 rerolls. I could roll more dice. And there's a success. I am probably going to have to leave here, so I am going to break the walls, and I'm going to loot it as well. Only 1 loot counter for this level 1 city. I'm thinking I may have drawn too many loot counters for other cities. I don't know, that's a level 2 city. Okay, so that one was definitely correct. I'm just wondering because I seem to remember drawing 2 loot counters, maybe for more than just one place up there. with the thought of, oh, look, there's a 2. You know, that's the wall's value. But yeah, shit happens. It's not that big a deal. It's barbarian money. Who cares? You know, it's not going to be used for a long time. Okay, now I got one more operation to get me into Chaldea and try to take it. I have to go straight in across the river because I can't get stopped here. A fair number of units could just prevent me from making it across, so I have to give them the river crossing bonus. Here's the weird thing. To some extent, the Persians may not want to fight this battle, but I get victory points off of it. The problem is I'm giving twice as many victory points out and I'm outnumbered. And I may not be able to make my 10 points. You know what? I'm going to try to retreat instead of advancing. No leader. I have less cavalry. No. I don't have twice the units. Yeah, so I need a 9 to flee. And I did not succeed in fleeing, so I'm going to go with the larger force that I assembled. Okay, I don't know if you can do both, but I just did, so I guess you can now. All right. Don't have the cav advantage with the Persians, and I don't have... I can only trade for 1 black die with my elites, which gets taken away because of the heavy advantage, so the die pool is not good for me. Again, there was no missile combat, and Julian gets as all 3 of his rerolls without an answer to them, which is kind of cool too. And it was pretty effective. Actually, there were a lot of hits on the Romans, but the rerolls got rid of something like 5 or 6 hits on them, and I got enough to wipe out the Persians again, and the Persians will take, is this an elite? I got 2 elites dead. Persians will take these 2 back, recover an elite, and flee somewhere. Doesn't really matter. This is the end of the road for the Romans. The Romans, on the other hand, get to recover both their elites, and we get to get one of them back. So here go the Persians in piles and piles and piles of them. I'll figure that out later. The siege here, though. The siege is a civilized besieger +1. I might assault. It's expensive, though, losing units. And I don't know if those units create victory points. Oh, I don't think so, but whatever. So I am actually at -2. That means I'm going to need a 9 or better to succeed with 3 die rolls. This is a big deal. I am going to take 2 hits on units for a +1 assault. What is this? I can't read this. Moesia. I'm going to kill the Egyptians. I don't think they're all that important. I've lost a lot of my legions. Okay, so that brought me to an 8 or better, which is where I was before. And I get 3 die rolls. Well, 4 die rolls. 1, 2. It's important to do them in order because of the event chat and the possibility of it. Like if I roll 2 successes at once, I wouldn't. 3. It does not happen. Which means I don't have to use the Saint marker. To cancel that, I have failed to take the town. I am out of actions. I have to retreat. I own this, so I probably can retreat there. 2, 4, 6, yep. Spent some time shuffling through all these different player aids, and I could not find the sequence of play in there. I know that it's here. So let's see what we got. It's end of diplomacy. Everybody gets to discard their diplomacy cards and get a victory point. Not a victory point, a buck. Seriously, there are no diplomacy left? I used them all up? Cool. Okay, and I have no room for the money, so nothing there. Scoring phase. This happens only on the special turns, so like turn 3, everybody's got them. Unlike Britannia, and most of the games of this style, depending on what you call this style, like if you go broader to things like History of the World, they have scoring that's kind of uniform across everything. Most of the games in the Britannia series have kind of this, every couple turns or whatever, there's an important victory point turn, and that's an important turn for people to do things on, like there is in this game. But then some nations have like a special victory point turn where they score victory points when nobody else does. This doesn't seem to have that from what I've seen. This seems to stick to the, hey, let's just score the victory points for everybody at the same time and not try to worry about that kind of crap. So that would be the only thing that we had here. Let me add up the victory points that everybody's got, and then I'll talk about them in a moment. So that big eye for an eye card brought the Byzantines up to 41 points, which brings pink up to 53, and they're going to be in the lead here. Green is at 7. Of course, they haven't gotten their major power yet, the Huns, who may not score much at all because they may disappear early. The Persians pulled 36 off theirs. They got nothing off the Alani. The Alani just moved. That's a pretty good amount for them. And it looks like I'm going to probably have 10 units next turn and be able to get the 20 points again. That's something that Rome is not going to be, pink is not going to be able to match the points that they made this turn unless they get another really bonus event. I don't mind the randomness. I feel like that level of randomness in a game like this feels wrong. Again, to me, that this has to do with, I don't mind it in EU. I don't mind when that level, except if it just said gain 20 victory points. That doesn't make much sense. I don't mind it in terms of it heavily impacts how the game works. In a sense, I don't mind that the Huns just sort of can vaporize. I think that's perfectly fine. I think they should get a huge victory point bonus if that happens to make up for the fact that they're not playing the Huns, you know, if you were worried about the balance of the game. I feel like a game like this should be fairly balanced. You should be able, every player should have a fair chance of winning. Not necessarily an equal chance, because as people realize things, they may understand different stuff and try to prevent each other. It's a multiplayer game. Let the players balance it out to some extent themselves. But it sure the hell shouldn't be like an EU situation where Portugal's in the lead, you know, after the first 2 periods, and then gets boned with Russia, and that's enough of a negative to make sure that they are in last place every single time you play. There shouldn't be something like that. But likewise, the randomness. I don't mind the randomness in something that's more detailed simulation side of things. This doesn't feel like it. This feels like that abstracted Britannia type thing with lots of fucking ornaments hanging off of it, dragging the tree down into the fireplace. Anyway. Again, doesn't mean I don't take a certain kind of perverse enjoyment out of it. It's just not a good game. And then on blue, I got 24 points, but at the cost of putting my Ostrogoths in the way of the Huns, which is real iffy. But I think my chances of getting away from the Huns are better than my chances of... the victory points that I can get with the Ostrogoths later are about equal to this, but I also have a chance to just get away from the Huns, conceivably. Through retreats, through whatever, I might be able to avoid having to submit to them, and I might be able to succeed in a rebellion. Yes, those are 5 points each, but that might be worth the points that we're talking about here. All right, we're going to load this one up. No other turn, I hope, is going to be done in this much detail, although I got to tell you, I withdrew quite a bit to handle the Byzantine engagements over here, and it still ate up a half hour of time. So I have the feeling we may be looking at 1.5 hour videos to cover each turn, and maybe more than that, maybe a couple of 1.5 hour videos per turn, just because more nations start coming in, there's more shit to do. Now, some of them are just going to be migrating, like we saw with the Visigoths here, right? Okay.